So there I was, the Easter holidays, and I know that I was 7 because I vowed to remember that day and what I learned that day, to never forget. I know it was Easter because on the television they were showing a big Hollywood production of the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. They always did that at that time of year. And I was alone in the room. I could probably draw that room if I tried. And I was sat cross-legged in front of the television. And I'd watched the whole movie, and it was nearing the end. I knew the story. They told us the story at school. The perfect soul, the Son of God, being nailed to a cross. Someone who came to earth to save mankind from itself. And I wondered how painful that must have been, to have those nails driven through the wrists, hammered into place. And this perfect creature had come to earth knowing in advance what was going to happen, had walked into it, walked into the trap that it knew would be set. This God, this man, came for the best of reasons, tried to lift mankind above itself, and took upon itself so much agony and injustice to save us from our own sinful nature. There's no point watching a movie in disbelief. So I'd suspended my disbelief, and I'd been carried along with the story. And as Jesus was hoisted upon the cross into the sky, and he turned to the sky and said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Tears came to his eyes, and tears came to mine. I actually sobbed. My breath catching in my throat, my hair standing on end, with wet cheeks, a 7-year-old boy, weeping the first tears that he ever wept for another person. All my tears up until that day had been for myself, my own frustrations and my own pain. And here I was crying for another, a totally new concept, 7 years old. And in that moment, I remember asking myself so many questions. The first of which was, could Jesus be thinking about me right now? Could Jesus be talking to me? Is this the Holy Spirit? And I think it was, because I understand what it means when people say to be filled with the Holy Spirit. It doesn't mean to be filled, it means to be filled to bursting point, to overflowing point. And the tears were just a symptom of it. It was more than that. It filled my chest. And at this point, I wondered what was happening to me. It really did feel exactly as the Christians say, that God was talking to me, and it was beautiful. I wondered what would happen, and I needed to find out. So I leant forward and I turned the volume on the television set off. And in the silence, for some reason, I could remember all the bizarre, ridiculous claims of Christianity that even at the age of 7 I couldn't believe. I remember thinking, is it possible that God could be forced from my head, from my heart, and out of the room simply by turning down the volume on a television set? The thought was so ludicrous I laughed, even as I wiped away the tears. It was so simple, so obvious. Emotional manipulation. And I decided at that moment I wasn't going to be manipulated. I was going to look for the truth. Somebody else telling me they felt something extraordinary wasn't going to count for anything. The creator of the universe can't be overpowered by volume control on a television set. Jesus had performed no more of a miracle than Bambi could. And I understood what people meant by the Holy Spirit. It was no mystery to me. People talk to me about the Holy Spirit as if it's something I can't understand. I understood it at 7. And when you see the people at the Jesus camps with their arms raised to the sky and their faces turned to the sky and the music's playing and it's all coming through a public address system and it's filling the room with something, you can feel it, it is real, and you raise your hand and the priest is there speaking gently through a microphone, guiding you towards that rapture, that exaltation, that emotional pinnacle. If only there could be a power cut. I wonder how long the arms would stay in the air. I wonder what the expressions of the priests would be as they look at the electrician who's shaking his head. How many of them would wonder about what had happened to them, and how many would realize that they were being played like cattle, programmed like machines. If only more electricians were atheists.